We are live. Hi, everyone. My name is Laura Silverman. I am the founder of Zero Proof Nation, a platform devoted to global non alcoholic beverage culture. And I am 100% booze free.
Cool.
Okay,
Hi
your
guys,
turn.
I'm Haylee. I'm Haylee. I am the co-founder of Studio Supercult, where we do brand strategy, design, package design, and photography. I am 100% a mindful drinker, and we are in a Dossier. Super excited for our episode today. How are you doing, Laura?
I am really good. Ready to crack open a cold one at 1:30 p.m., which is great. The great thing about NA beers, we'll talk a little bit more about our special guests in a second. But if you're just joining us for the very first time, welcome. As Haylee mentioned, this is NA Dossier, and it's our way of giving back to the community. We like to bring in NA brands and talk about branding and design, which is Haylee's sweet spot. We talk about taste, we talk about community, and we're just really excited before we bring our special guest, RationAle. Oh God, I can never figure out how to pronounce it, but RationAle Brewing. Haylee and I are just going to catch up for a little bit, talk about some stuff, and then bring Jamie and Wendy on. It's never scripted, this thing.
It's not, well, that's the point. We don't like scripted because we like real, honest conversations around alcohol, culture, consumption, ways of navigating all of that. And I think that we are unscripted on purpose so that we can show up as our authentic
Our
selves.
friend Courtney says I pronounce it differently every time I say it. Yes, Courtney, welcome. Welcome to the having trouble pronouncing it team, but God, that sounded dorky. But yeah, we love the culture of mindful drinking and how you can be anywhere across that spectrum of being, entirely sober, entirely alcohol free, to being mindful, to being a moderator, and all of the great things that you still get to do and experience when you drink less or not at all. So, plus, like, we're, beverage and design nerds, and that's what this is. So it's Tuesday. We're already in November. What the heck happened?
Life moves fast,
If you don't
whether
stop.
you're having fun or not. I've
Right.
learned.
I was about to do either the Ferris Bueller thing or the John Lennon thing. If you don't stop and take a look, it'll something.
Yep.
Anyway,
While we were talking about, NA Dossier and allowing people to choose their path with alcohol, I think RationAle is just how I'm gonna say it. That's like their main thing, which I'm really excited to talk to the founders and learn more about that balance that they have in their branding. They're not a brand that says, "Hey, we're 100% sober or booze free." They're a brand that welcomes anyone on any path, and you can kind of see that in their branding.
yeah.
Should we jump into some thoughts on the cans? I know you have
Yeah, let's talk about the cans, and also, yeah, just to pick up on that, if you go directly to their website, you see, we both have our Mexican lagers today.
yeah, good
Um,
Mexican lager.
it makes me want to go to a concert and just like, I don't headbang or anything, but just like mosh or whatever, and and have a RationAle
Right.
ale. Oh my Lord,
So this
Jamie
is
and
what I'm
Wendy are going to
thinking.
set us straight.
I
I
think that they've probably had a lot of people mispronounce it, and I've noticed that their logo, which was probably strategic, has it broken.
Yep,
So I'm
Ration
I'm assuming it's
Ale.
Ration Ale, but
RationAle,
broken,
yeah,
and I think that's
yeah.
what it's supposed to how
But
it's
also, it's it's one of those like two meaning type things. RationAle,
Mhm,
RationAle.
right. And
So,
Jamie wrote on the website that he was talking around a campfire with his sons about
yeah.
consumption of alcohol and how it's important to be conscious. And he said he used the word rational like 3 times. And I think
Mm-hmm.
one of his sons in the story said, that's a great name for a beer company. So
Oh,
this
cheers.
is how they came up with the name. Um, let's talk about the can design real quick. We both have the Mexican lager, but
Yep.
each type of beer has a different sort of collage style,
Yeah.
different main colors. So this one has that sunshine yellow.
And the
Um,
teal, like a light turquoise. I love this. I love this color combo. These are actually my two favorite colors.
mm,
Love yellow, love turquoise. So I would have this as a poster in my room. I don't know
Right.
if they have posters, wink, wink,
They
nudge, nudge,
should.
but yeah, totally.
So
Um,
the
yeah,
first
go
thing I'm
ahead.
noticing in the branding is they're not afraid to be rough around the edges, and we see it. Their logo's
Hmm.
broken. It's
Hmm.
rough.
A lot
We
of
see it all
ripping.
on paper, which I think is really cool. And then, of course, it goes down to their photography. If you're on their website, you're going to see a lot of like people in the moment at concerts, partying. Their main photo, I think, is a girl with her hair kind of messy, like at a concert. So I think that's something we don't see a lot always in the
Yeah,
NA space. Sometimes it's a little bit more polished, which definitely this is an intentional choice. Did you
yeah.
get that, Laura, from the website and the Instagram and everything
Oh
you're
yeah,
saying? Good.
absolutely. It makes it more like I don't know if I want to say hardcore, but just like
Mm,
kind of um like an exports kind of vibe. Like it's just
right.
sort of rebellious, maybe a
Right.
little straight edge in the like the culture of like punk. Um and the copy is really clean and whatever your rationale. Hasta la vista, boring lager, our flavorful Mexican cerveza crushes non alcoholic expectations and revolutionizes refreshment. I really like how it's all laid out. It's nicely done. It's easy to read. It's easy to see. And then I did happen to bring a box, which their old boxes were white and a little harder to make out the can itself because the can, as we know, is white or some sort of off white.
Mhm.
But with this new black um, background, really makes it pop,
Right.
and and it really makes things like their thing is rip into right now, like, and
Yeah.
you can tell with all of the like you said, the paper tearing, the ripping sort of um, imagery. So that's that. While you chat a little bit, I'm going to get
Yeah.
some links going and post them for people so that they can go to the website.
I was looking for my notes, but I think that they, from what I read, they wanted that darker aesthetic on the shelf to kind of stand out, which makes sense because I don't
Mm.
see a lot of black, black boxes on the
Yeah.
shelf. Um, but yeah, I think that everything from their logo to their design to their photography to their copy is very rough around the edges, very present, and not afraid of being authentically yourself and kind of showing up with that imperfection. I see a lot, which is really cool because when we talk about an individual navigating alcohol culture, it might be a little bit imperfect sometimes, and I think they really tie into that.
Yeah.
On their website, it says, culture may try to define the drinking rules, but we could care less. We make our own rules and we live in the now because today is a damn good day and we'll crush it however we want. So it has that very like taking life by storm feeling in all of their branding and using words, like crush, uh,
Mm-hmm.
however we want. We make our own rules. It's very rebellious. It's for the Mavericks, I believe, is what they were saying.
Yep. I remember that word. And it just, you can feel it with sort of the collaging. So this is their
Yeah.
koozie. I don't know if they still have
Oh,
these, but I got this last year. So I found it hanging around. Anyway, I found it in my apartment. I thought I had lost it forever. So this was a pleasant surprise.
hmm.
Um, yeah. Oh, it looks like we've got a comment from someone. Oh, our
Love.
friend Dawn at Starla
I
says
love
hello.
Dawn.
Hi,
Hi, Dawn.
Dawn. Good to see you again. Yeah, for whoever is tuning in, drop your, where are you tuning in from? Have you had RationAle? And which one is your favorite? And, like, just come say hello. Um, should we crack it open, or when should we
Oh, yes,
bring
please.
Jamie and Wendy on?
Well, I don't are they here?
They are here.
Oh, I couldn't see them. I was, like, freaking
Oh
out.
yeah, I guess because okay, so I can
Well,
see them
let's
behind the.
open it, taste it, talk about it. We both are tasting the same one today, right? And then bring on the founders.
Yep. Okay, so let's crack that open. I love the sound more
Oh,
than anything. Woo! No
no, really
accidents
quickly,
here.
this is important to some, 60 calories right
Yes,
there, for
very
the
important.
Mexican lager.
So to get, I guess, the full sort of aroma, because remember how I talked about before how you can taste retronasally, and smelling is part of the whole, you taste with your eyes, you taste with your nose, and of course you taste with your mouth. But I love drinking beer out of a can.
Mm-hmm.
So here I am drinking beer out of a can.
It's really nice.
It's very refreshing.
It has a nice, I don't know what it's called because again, I'm just a drinking civilian. that like after, you know what I'm talking about. You drink it, you swallow it, the after.
That's the retronasal taste, sort of that like that thing that you sense in the back of your throat. Like, how are you sort of tasting and smelling it that way? Right. I learned a lot of these things, by the way. I have to shout out to my friend Megan Anderson at Aficionados. It is the first certification program for non-alcoholic beer. She's coming out with wine, spirits, and cannabevs too. And it's basically like Cicerone for beer, but like for non-alc. So I learned a lot about how I taste things through that course. It was fantastic. And then, of course, when I judged earlier this year at the World AF Awards, I learned a couple of other tricks up my sleeve. So not having it in a glass, you lose some of that too. You're not seeing it, smelling it, but this is still super flavorful enough that you can totally open it, drink it out of the can. And then I brought this just for fun because I wanted to show people that you can, even if a beer has all of the flavors that you want and need out of it, I absolutely love adding all the bitter to everything. And this one is a Meyer lemon verbena. And I thought that it would go really well with the Mexican lager because I think that has some lime, certainly some citrus in it. So I'm going to add just a couple droppers full and see what happens.
I will say, compared to other beers, this has a lot of NA beers at 60 calories. Let me clarify. I feel like it has a lot of flavor. Sometimes it can taste a little like water. This does not. Do you agree with that? I don't know.
I absolutely agree. Oftentimes you'll find that there are NA beers that just really have to like up the calorie content to get some sort of like weight behind it. But this really nails it. And I love a drink that's 60 calories or 50 calories or like 10 or 15. I've found that a lot of the beers are like between 80 and 100, especially if you're going darker. And one of the things I will be asking Jamie and Wendy is, will there be a dark beer in the future? Because that is like one of my favorite things in the world. It's the Mexican beers and the dark beers. But I absolutely love it. This one is my favorite. I think they've worked a little bit on their line and reformulated and then reduced the amount of SKUs that they have from 4 to 3, I think. So we're gonna talk to them about that. But I'm excited to chat with Jamie and Wendy.
Yeah, let's bring them on.
Bring them onto the stage. Okay. Yeah. Applause, sound effects.
Now introducing
Brew Crusher. Brew Crusher and Wendy. Hello. Welcome to the NA Dossier stage.
Cheers.
Thank you. Cheers. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thanks for having us. And Laura, you have some vintage RationAle with your koozie. It's pretty cool.
The koozie, yeah, it's very vintage. Do you still make koozies, or are they different now? Do they have black instead of white?
Yeah. You've already picked a few marketing items that we need. The poster, I love.
Yes.
And some koozies need to be resurrected.
Yes, resurrect the koozies. They're great. But I absolutely love like the collage ripped effect. It's obviously very smart. And welcome to the stage. It's so nice to have you both here. Jamie and I have had a couple of conversations in the past, but I've never met Wendy. So it's really nice to meet you.
Yeah, great to be here. Thank you.
We're excited. Let's jump in. So I have an initial question. You say that our culture tries to define drinking rules. How do you think our culture does that? And how do you guys push back against those rules that they've defined for us? I think that's a super interesting start to this.
Totally. Wendy, you want to take that one?
Oh my goodness. I mean, I think there's a lot of ways that culture defines it. And I think we see that in the category in the positioning of non-alcoholic. I mean, I think for years, many consumers felt like they were in the penalty box in many ways with their NA beverage, the green bottle brands that we all know so well, the domestic beers. And I think what we're trying to do is really bring NA out of the shell and really talk about it in a permissible way. And I think our packaging, and I loved watching you guys, analyze our cans and taste our beer. That was really great. Toast to that. I got a hazy.
Cheers.
I've got a hazy here.
Okay.
But yeah, we want this to be permissible, and we want everyone to feel really good when they're out socializing, whether in a large group or at home making dinner, that it's something that they feel good about and they can talk about in a permissible way. Jamie, you can certainly add to.
Yeah, I think Wendy nailed it, along with, for me personally, I was, and still am, I enjoy drinking high ABV hazy IPAs. And candidly, my way of moderating before we launched RationAle.
Nailed.
By the way, I loved going, if you could do like a shot of RationAle for every time you guys tried to figure that out.
I'm sure we're not the only ones who struggle with it, right?
Yeah, but I enjoy drinking high ABV hazy IPAs. And before we launched our company, I used to have light beers in my fridge as my pacer beer, which is sort of ridiculous because you're going from a 7% to a 4% is really not helping you out at all. And candidly, if you're having the 4%, you probably don't need it at all. So Crushing Society's drinking rules is just about switching it up. And we've built this business around really trying to appeal to mainstream beer drinkers that are enjoying alcohol. And it may not be just beer. The brand could look more like a tequila brand or another big craft beer company or a well-known brand like a Liquid Death in its brand positioning. But at the end of the day, it's attracting in like the new consumers into the category that we're also excited to be bringing in, which includes Wendy and I. I mean, now my alcohol consumption's gone down by probably 75 to 80% just because of the changes in habits through drinking non-alcoholic beer. And that for us is totally crushing the rules. I never thought I would be drinking non-alcoholic beer 10 years ago, let alone 5 years ago, just because I didn't feel there was a brand that I emotionally connected in with. And there also wasn't a product on the market that really delivered on what my craft palate was wanting. And so Crushing Drinking Rules is really making this as accessible, inclusive, and bringing in a new group of consumers into the NA category.
The question is, do your sons drink RationAle, right?
Yeah, well, my oldest son is at the University of Alabama, and he actually does have his fridge stocked with RationAle. But he's a typical 20-year-old college student, so he's enjoying the frat parties. But I will tell you, his college experience is a completely different program than mine. He's definitely moderating. And then our other son, he's still in high school. He's tried RationAle, but he's not really a beer drinker at all. So
a little too young.
Yeah. I mean, it's exactly. It's still non-alcoholic, but he just generally doesn't like beer. So and he's a Canadian.
Totally. As a mindful drinker, I really enjoy your position and kind of welcoming people along in their journey, because you say, even at the end, what your mission is to increase your enjoyment of craft beer while moderating or eliminating your alcohol consumption, whatever that means to you. It's so unique what it means to be a mindful drinker for each person. And it's like their own journey. And it's funny because sometimes people need to understand your alcohol consumption, I found, as a mindful drinker, which is uncomfortable, because you shouldn't have to say like, okay, it's a Friday night and I'm going to have one drink tonight, but I'm not drinking tomorrow. You shouldn't have to explain it to everybody all the time. It's whatever it means to you and what's right to you. And I really appreciate that built into the brand identity, and the story you're telling is it's different for each person, and possibly it's just cutting down a bit,
Yeah.
It's highly personal. I mean, Wendy and I love going to the trade events because we end up having intimate conversations with consumers that come up to the booth that want to talk to us about how non-alcoholic beer, and it's not always RationAle, it's other brands, have really transformed their life. And it's about that relationship that everyone has with alcohol and their journey. And I think post-COVID, so many people are reflecting on their consumption habits and how that now candidly has had to change for them, and how they do that in a way that they don't have to sacrifice giving up what they like, right? And that's where having really good quality craft beer that's now hitting the market that happens to not have alcohol in it is allowing them. It's the gateway in to a path towards reducing alcohol. And many times you start down that journey, you don't realize the impact it's going to have from a health perspective and feeling great and allowing you to do more and be more true to yourself. You brew you, which is on our packaging right now. So I think it's definitely allowing consumers to come into a brand and into a category that was not very permissible recently.
Yeah.
I love how you both say that it's so much more permissible, and there's no questioning whether someone's going to ask you, that doesn't have alcohol in it. I can't tell you how many times over the years, and even in very recent years, I've gone to places, asked for their one non-alcoholic option, and then they'll tell me, that doesn't have alcohol in it. And I'll be like, yeah, I know. That's why I ordered it. But I'll tell you, I went to this really great sort of dive bar pizza place. Where was it? It was in Del Rey, Alexandria, which is a very sort of like artsy district. And I went to this pizza place. They had 2 non-alc beers on the menu, and by brands that weren't necessarily top of mind for everyone. And I said, I'll have this beer. And then I made the rest of my order. He's like, great. Okay. And then he gave me the pint glass that the branded pint glass. Actually, I think it was Two Roots Brewing, I think. And I ordered their hazy IPA, but he wasn't like, that's non-alcoholic. Like, do you want? And I can't tell you how many times I've been shamed to either clarify my order, change my order. So it's just really great that like this is another amazing brand that lets people be themselves. Lets people be, a little rough around the edges, like we were saying before. How many concert venues is RationAle at? Because this is something I want to drink at a concert.
So true.
Yeah.
We do too.
We're not, we haven't raised the capital yet to do the big deals. But music is at the core of who we are. So the Beach Life Festival in Redondo Beach, we started working, we did those 2 years ago, and we did it again this year. But you're going to see a lot more from RationAle in 2024 as we start to partner with a lot of music venues and music artists and music festivals. It's definitely a culture. We're building the brand around a culture of alcohol, and there's a ton of alcohol being consumed in settings. And so we're actually wanting to, again, put ourselves in a position where we can open up the conversation. So to your point, if you're there for the night, you end up having potentially a couple of RationAles because one of your friends is already a maverick and is already living the lifestyle of moderating, and then it's available to them. So music is really important to us, as is going to be some areas within action sports.
So the music thing, that was, it's just all over your brand. So that was a strategic decision to then position yourself to get into more places like that? Or can you speak more to this? Do you just personally both love music and want that to be a part of the brand? Or why is it such a focus currently?
Well, Wendy, do you want to take a run at that? And I can as well.
Yeah. I mean, I think we all know, we've all been to live concerts. We all know what that energy is like, and it's incredible energy, right? But much of it too is built around alcohol, and that's totally fine. We want to be participating in those settings where alcohol is being consumed and moderation is also being exercised, and people want to hold something cool. They want to be out late. They want to be enjoying and in good company, but perhaps, that was something they did in their 20s, and now they're in their 40s, and they don't want to party like they used to. And so it really is for us, a channel or a positioning for us that we really want to dive deeper in and be a part of, because music to us is so important. And so that's a big part of it.
Yeah. The energy of those gatherings for sure.
Totally. And I'd add on that too. A lot of what you'll see with the content and the copy and the imagery is it's what's surrounding the person consuming the RationAle. That's what it's about. It's what's surrounding them that creates the moment. So we're not about one specific influencer. The influencer is actually the human that's in their moment, making a choice for themselves. And music venues are a great example of that, because there's so much energy. You're in your moment. You're being yourself. You're enjoying your friends with your time with your friends, but you're also allowing yourself to be opened up to having a non-alcoholic beer. So there's going to be a lot of content that we'll create outside of music as well. That's in larger settings where there's large groups of people in the community that we really want to build the brand.
Who have you been finding, and you touched on this a little bit, but our friend Dawn over at Starlast, who is your customer? So we've talked about some of your ideal customers, but who are you finding is really gravitating toward RationAle right now as we're in, November 23? And then I'm curious to sort of build up on that. You were mentioning some big things are coming in 24, and whatever you're comfortable sharing, we'd love to hear what's next for you.
Yeah, we get the question a lot on who our core consumer is. It's 48% female, 52% male. Our age ranges from 28 to 55 years old. So I'm assuming this is probably similar to a lot of other craft non-alcoholic brands. But we're building this brand, we're at least marketing it towards consumers that are enjoying alcohol, that are now leaning towards moderation and are looking for brands that connect in with them on an emotional level. And I thought you did a great job dissecting our brand before we got on. And what you spoke about many times through is our point of difference. And we really are candidly trying to build a brand that's very different than other brands in the category today, where there is a lot of wellness focus. We're not going down that path. Wellness is definitely an attribute of what will be the result of drinking the non-alcoholic beer, but we're not pushing that messaging. That will be a positive benefit of it. So we are really wanting to build this brand towards consumers that are out enjoying alcohol and are taking breaks, whatever that break means for them, and are exploring ways to reduce, but also love craft beer. So that ranges from all demographics and different groups of communities. And it can range from a college fraternity brother to a high rolling executive that's got big meetings the next morning. So we're not choiceful, and I think that sort of goes back to the brand, how we're building it, is that it's a very personal decision, choosing to reduce alcohol. Everyone's on their own journey, so we're trying to open ourselves up to a much broader audience of consumers that haven't necessarily been marketed to before, because not everyone is looking for the wellness as the attribute. I mean, many people are just looking to make changes, and they may be not exercising candidly at all. I mean, I was around the fact that we probably are going to be, our core consumer may be the one cheering their friend that runs the triathlon on, and they were out the night before till 1 a.m, and then they went to see their buddy running the race, and they're having RationAles afterwards. So we really are trying to open it up to a much broader consumer base, but also support those that are existing non-alcoholic consumers that are looking for an alternative, that we also want to be there for them, because we believe the quality and the taste and the body of our beer that you referenced is premium, and that there'll be consumers that are already living a sober lifestyle or are really enjoying non-alc beers, that will be another option for them.
Yeah. One other I would just want to add, that was a cool discovery when we were at the Great American Beer Festival, was there were a lot of women that had registered for this event, and the day of the event comes and they're pregnant. And so a lot of women coming by being really excited to be able to participate in a venue like a Great American Beer Festival and have a really cool, great tasting craft beer in hand.
It's a great tool for inclusion across the board, for sure. Yeah.
I'm curious about your brand refresh. So was it an identity refresh, or more just the messaging around and changing up some things, like creating that darker box versus the lighter box? Can you talk about what you did on that refresh?
Absolutely. And I would be remiss to not mention Zach Menard, Tall Tree Design. So Zach is the genius behind the brand. He was one of the first phone calls I made when we had the idea of launching RationAle, and Zach's based in Colorado, and he's incredible.
Me too. Hi, Zach.
So Haley.
Friends.
Yeah, he's in Denver. And so when I first called Zach, the idea was I really wanted to create a brand that would connect in with craft beer consumers like myself, that would have some edge to it, that would be more appealing than other brands around the market. I felt they were fairly very clear on who they were messaging their brand towards. And I wanted to build a brand that was very different. So I wanted something that would be edgy, that would be rad, that would be a maverick. I mean, I was a maverick in myself. I pushed everything in as Wendy did to launch this business. And so I wanted to build a brand that would have that edginess. So I think you used the word edge about 5 or 6 times as you were describing our brand, and I loved it. So, and a little bit of history with the cans is that when I explained to Zach the idea behind the brand, I said, like, look, it's like this torn state, and it is a torn state that consumer goes through when they're trying to make a decision on, do I have a beer with alcohol? Do I not have a beer with alcohol? And like they're in this torn state. So Zach came back with 4 different options for the branding, and we landed on the one we have today. And what's really cool is that this is a collage of all of his favorite photography, but also custom design art that he created. And so the collage state actually represents, the tears represent the torn state of a consumer. So there's a lot of reasoning behind why we ended up with this like collage format. And then it's been all of Zach's artistic talent that created the brand into life. And then absolutely you have the tear of the brand from RationAle to sort of disrupt and split up the brand name. And then you have the edge, the edginess that goes, sort of the tear that goes through the A and the L, that also when it's stacked goes through the end. So on our new cartons that we have here, you can see that it sort of goes right through. And so that was the reasoning behind the edge, the collage. Now, when we first launched it, even though it was 2.5 years ago, there was not a lot of cartons on shelf. And so we actually launched in the white cartons, and the can was the hero. But as the category has grown significantly over the last 12 months, we recognized a year ago that we had this huge opportunity to really disrupt the shelf and make our brand identity much clearer. And while many times I would pitch our brand and explain it, the feedback would be, well, I don't really get this like badass maverick edginess from your can. It's like white and it's got these colors on them. And so what we envisioned wasn't being perceived by the consumer at the shelf. And so when we looked at the shelf, we realized the shelf's mostly pastel colors, and they're all sort of, they look similar. And so how do we carve out our way, make the can the hero, which it is, but then really start to build the brand. And that's how we ended up with the RationAle Brewing. Right at the top, we have this slate black, really disruptive. That's got that edge to it. And then we wanted to have some play on words. Like right now it says you brew you. Swap out our copy, and then call out clearly non-alcoholic, which was an issue a year ago with the category. So yeah, we really wanted to build a brand that would just stand out, but also communicate who we are. Because it's not that we had a brand identity crisis, we just weren't clear on who we were. And that was then the reset. Really, we did a lot of work with an agency called Purely Righteous out of San Diego, and they helped us work with another agency to do the brand read, the updated design work on the packaging, the cartons itself, but then the consumer positioning through our social media and our marketing. And you can see the flip of the switch about 2 months ago on Instagram when we went from who we were, who we thought we were teenage, you know, and now we're becoming the adult version of ourselves. And so our social media now is like super clear, very consistent, and we're building our Maverick ethos around it.
I noticed that change, that switch, and I love that lightning bolt. You know, I love me some lightning bolts with Dear Fruit Nation. So
I love that.
There were lightning bolts, there were rips and tears, and more of those bold colors with the black. And of course, the messaging was like really all about ripping into being present, being present with an edgy sort of edginess to it. I'm wondering if sort of on the taste side and in terms of product SKUs, you did do a little bit of reformulation, correct? And also, did you remove a SKU, kind of combine things? Don't let me put words into your mouth, but just curious about what happened.
Yeah, I can talk about the reformulation, and Wendy, it'd be great if you could talk about the portfolio. But yes, we did go through a significant overhaul of the recipe formulation. And we have partnered with one of the top craft brewers in the country, which we haven't announced publicly yet, but we really have upped our game in terms of what Haylee, you mentioned, like you just notice the taste is significantly more prevalent. That's like was really important to us. We didn't want a diluted flavor, and we also wanted more body, which we feel like we also have in these beers. And so as a craft beer consumer, Wendy and I really, we went and looked at where the best places were to go that we could partner. And we feel like now we're in this incredible situation where we have new formulation of our Mexican cerveza. We have a new hazy IPA that's a combination of both the New England and the citrus. And then we have this West Coast IPA. And we really wanted to make sure that from what's inside the can would deliver on craft beer consumers' palates and over-deliver, candidly.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, as Jamie shared, and as you noticed, Laura, yeah, we took our 2 hazy SKUs. We had a New England and we had a citrus, and we've basically consolidated those right into one hazy. So still fruit forward, still super juicy, but yeah, really just had to SKU rationalize and decide what were the 3 that we wanted to lead with. And certainly still room for line extensions. Possibly a dark beer. I don't know.
Well, I totally would have included you in my dark NA beer, craft beer roundup that I recently published, but there wasn't a RationAle.
Well, there will be soon. We've got like an awesome card up our sleeve that we'll be pulling out at some point. It probably will be next year at this time, but we have an amazing strategic partnership with a very well-known brand that's in the market that is going to be the perfect collab for us. That will be a seasonal in and out, but it'll be our first foray into probably, our 4th SKU that would be a seasonal in and out version, which you'll be very happy about.
Nice. Well, I love all of your beers, but I'm partial to. I love the Mexican cerveza type beer, and I love darks. So seasonal is music to my ears. In terms of, so you mentioned that you both still drink alcohol a lot less than you used to, and you had sort of, Haylee mentioned the genesis of the brand and the story from your website. How did you go from that decision to like let's start a brand to like how did you just start a brand? Like how did you do this?
Man, that's such a loaded question. We don't have.
I know it's not specific enough. It's very
vague. No, it's a good question. I mean, for Wendy and I, for both of us, and I'll speak from my own experience, I spent 25 years working for some really large consumer goods companies. And I got incredible experience, but I felt like I wasn't on my path, and it wasn't as rewarding as I had wanted it to be. And I was wondering, am I going to be known for selling these brands? And they were great brands, but was that going to be my legacy? So it was when the idea happened with our 2 sons around the naming of the brand with RationAle that really, I think we realized we had something. And Wendy and I both come from an industry that's from the larger consumer goods company where you have access to a lot of data. So that's the first place we went, is like we dug into what's happening in this category, and quickly realized this category was in the earliest of stages and there was incredible growth. And then we did some research and talked to some other founders. I talked to all the founders that you've spoken to in the past, and they gave great advice and helped us navigate to where we first started brewing our beer. So a lot of things lined up for us in a very short window of time. And then that was in April of 21. And then we beta tested the brand really for the first 6 months. But in those 6 months, a decision had to be made after 2 months, like either personally I was going to be all in or not. And so Wendy stayed the course and supported me with her role in another consumer goods company. And I pushed everything in. And literally, I mean, just like every founder story, we were delivering, we were staring at 2 pallets of beer, didn't have a home for it, and started self-distributing, delivering cases to restaurants and on-premise accounts and retail stores. And it goes back to, I started my career at Gallo, and I was like back to doing the stuff I did 30 years ago, and I was loving it. So that was the impetus behind it. And then the personal side is we both grew up in families that had alcoholism. Both of us have our own stories. And that was a big driver behind finally finding the purpose. When I was saying, what's my legacy going to be? And now it is. Now our legacy is that we've launched a non-alcoholic beer brand that we know is making a meaningful difference in people's lives. And I'm getting goosebumps sharing that, but we hear it all the time from consumers. And so for us, it's been such a meaningful body of work and business to be able to be fortunate to be running and leading and growing together.
I love that story. And then, of course, your sons, I read your story that I shared earlier about the name and you talking to them about what it looks like to be a mindful consumer and all that. It's just a really good brand story you have.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, it was literally Tyler was heading off to the University of Alabama, and I was on the soapbox many times about the alcoholism in our family.
Mm-hmm.
And they knew the history, but this time I was like really sharing hardcore, like, hey, dude, you got to be really rational about how much you drink and who you're going to be drinking with and why you're drinking. And my younger son, Carter, because he'd heard it before, was just trying to end the conversation. And he was just being a bit of a smart ass. Like, why don't you just launch a beer company called RationAle? And that was just the moment where we laughed about it. It was our Friday night. Saturday morning, I got up and Carter had registered the trademark, RationAle.
Wow. Really? Your high schooler?
Yeah, he registered, and I called Wendy and said, this is what just happened. I mean, it's so crazy. Like, I think this is finally what I've been searching for, what we've been searching for. And so that was like the earliest first sign that this was going to happen for us. And it was just an organic, but I did struggle for years on the legacy of my family side of alcoholism and what that was. What was I going to do with that? And it has turned into this incredible positive business, which isn't about force. It's not about shaming people that are not drinking. It's about encouraging people and empowering them and inspiring them to just look at their life in moderation with alcohol. And I think it's a great message to send.
Absolutely. It is, and it's a unique message to send, I think, in the space so far. But yeah, I love the brand. I think you guys live and breathe your identity, which is hard to do sometimes for CPG. And I know a lot of my clients personally are nervous to take the step out and have a strong identity. And I really appreciate how you guys have fully committed to this identity, and it's doing you so good, so many favors, right?
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I think I will say, like, the word that comes up is vulnerability. Really talking about vulnerability, talking about things that, a lot of people don't want to talk about. And we're really, we're not forcing that conversation in a sort of way that we're standing on one pillar of this is how it has to be. But what's happening is the brand energetically is creating these conversations around stories around, and as Jamie shared, it's like we'll be on a sales call and the beer buyer just starts opening up because we've opened up, right? It's like, it's anything goes. We've pretty much shared publicly, privately, why we're here, why we're doing this. And it really has created a community, just a community of people that connect in with the brand in their own way, whatever it is.
Yeah. You probably find that when you're at these, like the Great American Beer Fest, for instance, people will want to come up to you and tell you a little bit of their stories because you have a non-alcoholic beer brand. So it's different than going to any sort of perhaps mainstream alcohol brand. People are going to be more inclined to gravitate towards something that pulls that vulnerability out.
Yep.
Do you have stories like that where people are just coming up and sharing their little bit of their personal lives with you?
All day at Great American Beer Festival, 3 days. We literally, we were pouring, it was just the two of us, and we had a little bit of help there from the team on site. But I will say, it was tough because we were pouring so many beers and people were bending our ears, wanting to talk about, their story. And we want to hear those stories. It's what connects us to the consumer, and it's important for us. But yeah, I mean, events like that are obviously one way, but as I shared, it could be, the corporate buyer at a large chain account, and it could be the store level, merchandiser or beer buyer. So it's every single day. I don't think there's a day that goes by that I have not heard a story from somebody, some way that the brand has somehow spoken to them. It's pretty special.
You should use that somehow, like on the website, have a stories tab and you have people submit their stories about, because it really builds your community, and you're all about this community, this energy, the people. So I would love to
see that, Haylee.
Yeah.
We actually, you'll see us. So you're absolutely on point. And we've just launched our Mavericks. And so every week we are highlighting a Maverick, and those Mavericks come to us. They come through our social media feed. They come through a retail store that we're in. I mean, everyone that is a part of our team has come to us or found this brand, and we're beginning to highlight them. And actually this month was the first month we started to highlight our Mavericks. And so we have some really rad humans that are badasses in their own way, that have made their choices in all the different reasons, from cancer to retired firefighter that, you know, saw alcoholism within their house, to just individuals, humans that are on their own path, choosing more healthier choices to have a better family life, or executives that need to be able to be higher functioning in the morning. So we are going to be highlighting these Mavericks, and it's super exciting because we've got these really cool people from all over the US that love our brand. And you're right, it's 100% about building the community, because that one Maverick is impacting others around them. And we want to be able to get beer. Like, we'll ship free beer out to those Mavericks so that they can share what it's like to be a Maverick within their community.
That's really awesome.
Yeah, that's amazing. Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, anything else, guys? Any other questions? Laura, do you have any questions or comments?
I'm just excited to see what's next. I can't wait to see RationAle at live music venues. I see very few, if any, NA beers when I'm going to concerts, and I can't take another bartender asking me if I want something with pineapple juice anymore. Like, no, I don't. I want a beer. I just don't want alcohol. So I'm excited for those moments for sure. Oh, and before we do have Courtney saying, bring out a Hefeweizen. So thank you, Courtney.
Oh. Love it. Noted.
Awesome.
Speaking of exciting, I'll just say that we just canned our third SKU of our reformulation, our West Coast IPA. So Laura and Haylee will have to get you some of our West Coast.
Yes, for sure.
Awesome.
I love that.
Can you tell us a little tiny bit about what actually is a West Coast IPA? I can't say that I know everything about everything.
East Coast versus
I can tell you the hops. Jamie, you can share a little bit around the inspiration behind our West Coast.
Well, yeah, our West Coast, because we're a West Coast brand, we wanted to start with what would be the most popular craft version for a beer. So that's why you do see some West Coast in the NA version. And we wanted to have caramely, but hops, a little bit of bittering, but then that just nice blended crushable. So you're going to find all of our beers are highly crushable. They're not going to overwhelm you too much with the hops or too much of the sweetness. Okay. So it's a very traditional West Coast IPA that if you were to try an AB version of something similar, it'll deliver on that. And that's, again, going back to the craft beer drinker's palate.
Mm-hmm. Have you had, I can't, sorry, words are a struggle sometimes. I just remember the question that I wanted to ask, which is, has anyone ever tried a RationAle and could not believe that it was non-alcoholic?
Oh man, we get that. That's the most common feedback we get. We consistently get it, especially with this new version of our beers, because there's that much more body and that much more flavor in it. I mean, we have so many stories we could share with you where that happens, especially at the beer festivals where they won't tell their friends, and then they'll bring their friends back to with a can of explain to them this is non-alcoholic beer, and their friend, we give them a can so they can enjoy the whole thing, and they're shocked when they find out there's no alcohol in it. And it's especially with like the Mexican lager. I think it has so much body and so much flavor, and Mexican lagers are typically a little bit lighter that it's undistinguishable for sure. Lager.
I'm a fan. Brews without booze.
Brews without the booze.
We brew you.
Right now.
We brew you.
Right now. I love it.
Awesome.
Well, thank you for giving us the opportunity to share out our brand. And honestly, while we were great at interviewing, you did a better job of actually describing our brand before we got on. I'm like, you guys got to open us up all the time.
It's fun. We have fun here.
Yeah, we do.
Totally.
Yeah. Well, thank you guys so much for coming on, and hoping to see what's happening next out there. Excited for you guys, and we appreciate it.
Yeah, I
thanks,
think we have
Billy.
2 new Mavericks. We're gonna have to.
I was just gonna say, Jamie, you've got 2 new Mavericks. I mean, I feel like I've been a Maverick, but
on our Instagram, we'll be in touch so that we can promote what you're doing and all the amazing energy you're putting into the category and branding. So we will get you set up as Mavericks in December.
All
Yes,
right.
I love that idea.
That's
I love
great.
it.
We like it. Well, does
Great.
anyone who's watching have any last minute comments or questions? Pop them in the chat while I'm stalling. Otherwise, we will see you next time. And for those who might just be tuning in right now, we do this every couple of weeks. So I think we do this every other week, right, Haylee?
Right.
Really? Yeah. So stay tuned. And yeah, I guess that's it, right?
That's it. Thank you guys. Have a great day.
See
Thank
you.
you.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.